All right. Well, in the spirit of starting on time here, let's get started. So, as mentioned, we've got an action-packed lineup as usual for Sprint 25, and so we closed this sprint with a lot of good progress on UX and Docs, and so we're going to have Sami and James really lead the way, speak specifically around account recovery, some of the recent work on orders, and of course search. This of course for those who are at grooming leads very well into to what we're making ready for pickup in terms of development work as well. And so working very much in real time here, and then of course James is fast following with some of the coverage on API and some updates to the homepage to reflect the contributors and some of the work that we've seen here, very similar to what's happening in GraphQL and others. Of course, last but certainly not least, I know I'm really excited to see some of the progress beyond some of the animations around create account. Jonathan, Paul, and the bargaining team have done such great work recently on the theme, and so love to see that and kind of finish strong. So that's what we had. And then also want to spend a couple minutes as well at the end to see if there's any questions around the updated release strategy. James and team have been working really hard on the merges, working very hard on the releases, really shoring us up for really 1.0 RC. And so he'll make himself available for any questions and maybe provide an update at the end. So, any questions or comments before we get started? All right, I'm going to hand it off to Samia then.
Good morning, everyone. So starting off with account recovery. This is the sign-in screen. If you did click, forgot your username or password, it will prompt you to enter an email to receive the link. It has the security verbiage, which then if you went to the email and clicked on the link, it would prompt you to set a new password. And where we landed on was once you saved your new password, you would be, as a shopper, taken to the signed-in view of My Account. We haven't included the capture step in this flow yet. We're still kind of trying to figure that piece out, but that's sort of the overall flow goal. And then with the purchase history, with the discussion that was had last week, with showing individual items then going into orders, kind of like the Amazon model, you have a list of things that you've ordered and the dates that you ordered them on. There is an option in the future to filter by, certain date or maybe a product name. This piece is sort of a pie in the sky. It hasn't been discussed yet, just a suggestion at this point. If you did click into an individual item, it would show you that item at the top with some individual product-related actions, such as being able to purchase again, share it, or review it, and then the associated order details at the bottom of that, which would show you other items in the order and any shipping, payment, and sort of billing breakdown. So here with search, what we landed on was clicking on the search would always be collapsed. Clicking on the search icon would summon the search bar. When you entered a search term into it, the future vision is that it would show you keyword prompted results as you were typing, as well as maybe any product suggestions. For now, I think we're just the functionality is going to be entering a search term and then hitting done and then being landed on a search results page similar to this, which keeps the search open, shows you the term that you searched for, the number of results that were returned, as well as a list of the product with a show more option, much like we have in the discovery mode on the category page. So that's it for me.
Perfect.
Any questions?
Excellent. They're speechless, Sonia. It's great. So yeah.
Could you share the screen again, please?
Yeah.
I do that too. I'm like, I unshare the screen and then I'm like, any questions?
Yeah. Sorry. Which screen did you want to look at particularly?
Previous to this.
This
the
one
where there's, yeah. So what I want to understand about this is product suggestion seems like it doesn't have a lot of room. So is it is the idea that there will be as many product suggestions as can fit on the display when the keyboard is up?
So typically how this works is that the keyboard stays up and the area behind it is scrollable. So you can scroll up to view more product suggestions. At least that's how it happens on iOS. I haven't really investigated how that works with Android. I would assume it's somewhat similar because otherwise it gives you very little real estate to show any product suggestions and it would render that kind of pointless unless that's what we wanted to default to and then, or that's the default we went with, but it is a scrollable area.
Yeah, it's scrollable on Android too. With the keyboard pop questions about what's going to happen when you tap and is it going to blur the search field, and I'm more familiar with that in Safari, where you're absolutely right. You can swipe without unfocusing the search field, but if you tap, it does, and then perhaps the thing disappears if you haven't hit a hitbox. But yeah, I mean, since I don't know really what that UX is like in Android, and you're right that it happens in Safari, I would say this is fine. Yeah, just leave it up to user research.
Yeah, I mean, that's really it, is that since we have deferred this UX for a future date, and we're just going with the simplistic, like enter the term, hit done, and you get results, it gives us some time to test, like you're saying, and that's kind of what I had planned on doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any more questions? All right.
Excellent. Well, let's switch it over
I think it looks good.
Oh, sorry. Was there a question?
Nope, just a comment.
Of course, please.
I gave it. I said it looks good.
The comment was, "It looks good."
It looks good.
Okay.
Oh,
very
thank
good.
you, Jimmy. Sorry, that didn't come through in the audio on this end.
Excellent. Duly noted. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. So we'll switch gears now to docs updates from James here.
Get my screen. You guys see that?
Yep.
So one update for docs is there's a new topic that goes over the REST API client. It's under the Peregrine components section. These are based on James Zetlin's notes and a little bit of edit and revisions. There are code samples you can look at. There are API explanations. Explanation on the features that the API client provides. That's pretty much what that covers. Second update from docs is update on our homepage, specifically the README file to recognize our community contributors. We want to, give them shout outs for contributing to our project. And this list I got is from GitHub Insights tab here. And if you think that, there should be someone added to this list, let us know and we can get them added.
Yep. This is great. I mean, one of the things that I know James, myself, and others on the team talk a lot about is, what makes a maintainer and what really makes elevated community status and what we're trying to do. And we've had such great contribution, really from a lot of the folks I see here on the call as well. And so establishing that and really forming some likeness with what's happening on the community engineering team, I think is where we want to take this. Ultimately, what we're doing here, and especially again with some of the recent progress of the community, is so important for that one. So we want to take a stab at it based on all the various contributions, whether it's just a small docs change to something that is something that's really helping us push the needle on the shopper experience and the Venya theme itself. And so this is certainly the very least we can do, but it's the beginnings of a program that we're going to be doing to really kind of give back a little bit based on what we've been given to date. And of course, be consistent with some of the other efforts like GraphQL and others for that. And so, yeah, James, thank you for putting this together. And yeah, if there's any feedback, anybody we're missing, please let us know. Perfect. All right. So switching gears here. So we've got we've got Jonathan, Paul, and team at Bargreen on tap. I'd love to see create account. We got a sneak peek earlier this week via we'd love to see the real thing. So.
All right, yeah, we're excited to show it to you guys.
Yay!
Perfect.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, take it away, Paul.
All right, so click sign in now. There's a little drawer that pops up with the login screen. And then here's lots of Jonathan's work with the create account form. Let's see here.
So yeah, one of my favorite parts of this is we have a automatic is email available check on debounce. So after you finish typing in, it waits 300 milliseconds and then checks for the email availability.
Nice.
That's cool. Yeah, I noticed that in the animation. I was excited to see that in person. This is really cool.
Mm-hmm. So you can see it won't let you create an account now because the email is not available. So we have kind of some front end validation to as much as we could get with the API that was available.
Yeah.
Yep.
And create account and see if it works. Hopefully,
And it'll wait a second, but then it'll automatically sign you in after you create an account.
Mm-hmm. So the token right now is kept in local storage here.
Yeah, so one of the things about the sign-in token is that we still need to actually make it try a refresh if it expires on the back end. We didn't end up implementing that because that seemed like maybe that should be a different issue. So on the safe side, we decided just to leave that for now. So what can happen right now is it can actually expire even though it stays in local storage. And so in that case, you just kind of have to clear local storage.
There's a library, though it may be too heavy for this use, and you might end up just doing a one-off. But there's a library that supports this that does TTL on local storage. I believe it's pretty small. The other option, I suppose, is to just put it in a cookie manually with an expiration date. I mean, the trouble, of course, with that is cookies being readable by JavaScript by other things. So never mind about that. I don't know.
I think
There's a larger discussion around the exact place you store it. There's trade-offs to all the different options, but but either way, I'm interested in the UX though. It looks great. What did you guys use for form fields?
So I made a generic form component that basically just renders its children and then has like an on submit. So we can reuse that. And then we also made generic input components that basically take a bunch of props that style the input and set, required and other things like that that go into an HTML input.
Cool. We'll take a look.
Yeah, it looks good.
Thanks. Yeah. It was all based on Soumya's design. And she was really helpful. I was sending her GIFs and stuff beforehand to be able to kind of exactly get what we wanted. So yeah, it's been fun making it.
Really appreciate you guys being so proactive and communicative as you're working. It's really helped for me also to be able to see how you are, progressing with it. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, thank you too. Yeah, it's been great. Is there anything else?
A couple other things you can refresh and you'll still be signed in.
Oh yeah, we do have an automatic sign-in if it detects the login token from local storage.
And then on each request to the REST API and GraphQL, it adds a authorization header. So it has the token in it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Any questions?
I love it. I am wondering if this second thing you mentioned, the auto login with a token that exists in the cache, is that doing warm authentication or hot authentication? And I will confess to not actually knowing the deets of how Magento's REST API deals with that. But in a general sense, do you know what I mean by hot and warm authentication?
I've never heard that before.
Oh, yeah. So it's a toasty little metaphor to refer to the kind of two ways that you can be authenticated to kind of anything. But for ecom, it's like when you are hot authenticated, you have access to everything. When you are warmly authenticated, you can you see your name, it knows who you are, you can build a cart, but as soon as you get to the point where you would be accessing payment information, or if you go to your My Account screen, or you try to to do anything that involves PI or payments, it asks you to log in again. And you've seen this in a lot of systems. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. I notice Amazon does that. That's a really good question.
Yeah, and I think that if there's somebody online, if there's somebody on this call who has more deep familiarity with how our hot warm auth works, feel free. It should be my job to know that, and it's something I'm not up to date on. But it's definitely we should check back in.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. If I decided to guess right now, I believe we're doing just warm, because the fact that we're just storing the auth headers in the request automatically, I believe that'll carry over to when you're actually checking out, and you actually check out your cart. But like I said, we haven't really tested it that deep.
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, it seems like session-based authentication is warm authentication in Magento lands. So it's like if you come back and you get reauth from a session, then you're warm. I don't know if there is an expiry, but you could probably just see that via introspection if you look at how Magento sets its cookie and like what its expiration is. Usually it's like an hour or something like that.
Okay.
So yeah, there you go. Start there, I guess, and try to figure out like what causes when you try to hit an API for your customer account or for checkout or whatever, when you have a session token, when it declines or says you need to log in again, then you're warm. You're getting warmer.
Okay, yeah, we can definitely look into that.
Yeah, definitely.
Worth checking out. All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah. Is there anything else?
No, I think that.
Talk about the guest cart thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, one of the requirements of this was to transfer any like guest card stuff to your customer account, and it does that.
That's great.
But none of the actual like customer cart stuff, of course, isn't implemented. I think all the cart stuff is based on guest accounts right now, so that's another story.
This is great. Now, this really pushes quite a bit into the work around auth, and so again, can't be more appreciative of everything you've done. I think we're starting to stitch together a pretty compelling, really kit from all the way from homepage all the way down through a true checkout here. And so, thank you so much for covering this, some of the edge cases, and I think even more so working with Sami and others to really refine it and get it done right. So this is great, and can't wait to review and kind of pull this together into Merge. So.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, this has all been like a really great learning experience, and it's been great working with you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, awesome.
Cool. Excellent. So speaking of releases and such, James, did you want to talk a little bit about the latest on that, or do you just want to field Q&A? What works best for you?
I mean, there's not a lot to tell. It's the same as we discussed in grooming, but if you look now, which, feel free to unshare, and guess I can share. Hold on. Kind of in a clamped kind of place. There we go. Let's just do that. So perhaps you can see here that I've begun to label certain things. And this is sort of my arbitrary call, which merits discussion. If you want to argue with me, that's fine. But bottom line is we are going to switch from the current state where this repository and its packages are only really suitable for internal development by cloning the whole monorepo. We're switching from that to a scheme where the individual packages are published and potentially other consumers who are not necessarily just making Venia could get build pack or Peregrine from NPM. So this also has the side effect of making it easier to tell when you have a version with particular features because there's a change log for each version. This all amounts to real release management. We have a community member named Mark Schust who actually has created a concept called Git Ship, which is effectively a radically simplified Git flow, which if you're not familiar with Git flow, it is a branching and merging strategy designed for continuous delivery software that is fairly popular amongst SaaS platforms because it's kind of designed to let you maintain master as whatever is in production and then generate releases, release candidates, and hotfixes based on branch names and stay completely up to date in master and in your release branches while doing continuous development in the development branch. But Mark Schust observes here that for continuous delivery, that seems to make sense. But if you're doing regular releases, but not constantly merging into production whenever your tests pass, which is what continuous delivery really is, I'm led to believe, if you're releasing individual releases of stuff, maybe you don't need to do so much merging. And his idea is to use the master branch for the individual tags that indicate releases, and otherwise to do all your development in individual release branches. Which means that instead of us all opening our pull requests against master, we would open a pull request against whatever the most recent release branch is. Effectively, these branches replace the so-called develop branch, and that really, really slims down the number of merges and the amount of confusion. So what we're going to do is retroactively have a 0.9 release and then create a 1.0 release branch with an immediately tagged 1.0 RC1 release candidate so that we can push things out to NPM for everybody. And then from that point forward, that will actually be the main branch of the repository. Now, if you have a change that only applies to the code from the 0.9 branch, then you can simply open a pull request against master, which will be on 0.9. But otherwise, if you're working on the current edge code, you would open it against release 1.0. We would preserve earlier release branches, maybe 2 back, in order to do maintenance or hotfixes to 2 branches back. It's pretty straightforward, and we're fortunate enough that the creator of this idea is a member of the Magento community. So instead of me having to puzzle through it and then try to explain it to somebody else or do it myself at 2 in the morning, we are going to have some help from Mark Schust to actually help do this. And that's really good news. So we're switching to that. And in the event that it doesn't work out for us, then we will switch to a more tested method like GitHub Flow or back to where we are. But I think it's useful, at least, especially considering that there is a person who has thought a great deal about this right here in our community. So that said, I have tagged these pull requests with indicators of where I would like to merge them. If you would like, look into your pull request and examine it and see why I may have done that. And I'll leave comments actually, which I need to do. But I think that's the main thing. The reason that we need a 1.x release branch is that we have big significant code changes that will make back merges hard to future pull requests. Like this default pragma is not a huge logical change, but it is a huge amount of code change, which is why it's 1.x. And the switch from it being a Magento theme in the first place to it being a separate project that runs on an upward server as its backend is a really big change that definitely necessitates a major semantic version. This is going to come with some more changelog rules, some commit message rules, but that will be a phase 2 thing. We're just going to start with this release management, and then later we'll introduce the idea of changelog that is auto-generated. In the meantime, we will just be asking that pull requests come with a lot of detail that can then be added to changelogs when we do releases. And that's the update I have for that. Any questions? And no, I won't stop sharing.
Sounds like we're good.
No. Give it a minute.
All right.
Seems straightforward to me, man.
I'm kidding. Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Back to you, Eric.
Sure. So that's really it for this week. So we've got, again, a lot of good progress on the UX and Docs front. Key contributions, of course, from the Bar Green team, who continue to just have been awesome, especially bringing to life some of the Venya theme. And so, and of course, some notes from James on our release strategy, right? Especially as we get more help both internally and externally on the project as we make our way to the 2.3 release at the end of the year. So before we finish things up, just open this to the floor. Any other questions or comments? Anything we'd like to share before we call it a wrap? Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Really appreciate it as always. Have a great rest of your day, afternoon, or evening. So take care.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you. Bye-bye.